Guru Maharaj Vijay. This is Arvindax Das from Chicago. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Arvindax Prabhu ji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining the call, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Padma Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharajas, and all glories to the assembled devotees. This is Tiffany in Ohio. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Tiffany Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Padma Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Guru Maharaj ki Jai. This is Shama Gauri Devidasi from Charlotte.
Hare Krishna, Sam Gauri Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Padma Mataji, this is Kamodaki Dasi from Baltimore. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj, and all the devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Kamodaki Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you.
Hare Krishna Padma Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. This is Vatna from Atlanta, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vatna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Padma Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Vinita Gandharvika Devidasi from Texas. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Mataji, thank you. Dandavat Pranam Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Padma
Hare Krishna Padma Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the assembled devotees on the call. Please accept my humble obeisances. This is Anita from Sharjah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Anita Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Padma Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki Jai, Vrinda. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna, Vrinda Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Padma Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. My humble obeisances to you and all the devotees. This is Krishna Kumari Devidasi from Raleigh.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Kumari Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj, all glories to Assembled Devotee. This is Mohini Lakshmi from Detroit.
Hare Krishna, Mohini Lakshmi Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Mataji. Thank you very much for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Padma Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees. This is Induleka Karuna Devi Dasi from Lincoln.
Hare Krishna, Induleka Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Padma Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to assembled devotees. This is Geeta from Texas, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Geeta Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Is there anybody else on the call that would like to introduce this?
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharajas. All glories to the assembled devotees here. This is Nina from Naperville, Chicago.
Hare Krishna, Nina Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna. I would like to, if there is nobody to introduce, I would like to give this to Tiffany Mataji to give the introduction to the Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Padma Mataji, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
dear devotees. I'm sorry, hold on 1 second. It disappeared. Okay, here it is. Okay. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. His Grace Lila Purushottam Prabhu is a Diksha disciple of His Holiness Ramapad Swami Maharaj. He is originally from Orissa and is a natural devotee of Lord Jagannath and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from a very early age. For more than 30 years, Prabhuji has been practicing Srila Prabhupada's teachings and preaching vigorously. Currently working as a senior professor at IIT Kanpur, he sets an example of the perfect grihasta. In the last 20 years, every single day, his house at IIT Kanpur hosts complete morning and evening programs in which many IIT graduates participate. IIT Patna, IIM Indore, and Dehradun City are Prabhuji's other places of preaching. He has delivered many lectures on science of Bhagavad Gita in many prominent institutes worldwide, including MIT. His tireless preaching effort has brought many young IIT grads into Krishna consciousness. Currently, he is serving as the director of ISKCON Gurukul in Vrindavan and is the director of Bhagavad Gita Patsala, Dehradun. He was also the former president of ISKCON Kanpur. His Grace Lila Purushottam Prabhu recently launched an online Bhagavad Gita course on the website Learn Gita, Live Gita. That's learngita.livegita.com, which is an initiative from ISKCON Gurukul Vrindavan. This course has over 60 video lectures and 10 lessons that present Bhagavad Gita very scientifically. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Once again, I welcome all of you to the Bhakti Sangha conference call. Today we are fortunate to have His Grace Lila Purushottam Prabhuji to enlighten us on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 10th chapter and 7th verse. I'd like to hand over the call to Prabhuji.
I think Prabhuji has joined, Mataji.
Not yet joined. Okay, maybe should we continue chanting?
Prabhuji is here. He's on the call.
Yeah. Prabhuji, please take over the call, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji sir is joining. I am his student. Yeah.
Okay, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram,
Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Ram,
Ram Ram, Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Ram Ram, Hare Krishna,
Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept our humble obeisances. Please.
So this is
fifth canto, 10th chapter and 7th verse. Hare Krishna.
Can you turn on this fan? This I have to put on? Why? क्यों? ठीक है. Vanchakalpatarvasya kripa sindhuvavaccha patitanang pavanebhyo vaishnavyo namo. Thank you, dear devotees, and thank you, Sam Gauri Mataji and others for inviting me to speak on these two verses. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tera Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Tarun, can you charge the please put the laptop in charge. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivradakacharya Stotra Sri Srimad Divine Grace Abhay Charanarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की, श्री श्री लक्ष्मी नरसिंहदेव भगवान की, श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी की, श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम श्री श्री राधा श्याम सुंदर श्री श्री गौणताय की, गौर प्रमानंदे हरि हरि। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 10. Maharaja Rahugana meets Jadavarata, text 7 and 8. Given that this is in prose form, I'll just read the translation and then the purport. But I will read on my own. You don't have to recite after me. Atha punaha so sivikayam visamagatayam prakupita uvacha rahoganaha kim idam are tvam jivan mrutto mam kadarthi krutya bhratru sasanam ati charasi pramattasya chate karomi chikitsam danda paniriva janataya yatha prakritim swam bhajisyasa iti evam baho badham api bhasamanam nara devabhimanam rajasa tamasa nuvidena madena tiraskruta sesa bhagavat priya niketam pandita maninam sa bhagavan brahmano brahmabhuta sarvabhuta suhrudatma yogeswara charyayam nati vyutpanna matim smayamana eva vigata smaya idam aha. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thereafter, when the king saw that his palanquin was still being seconded by the carriers, he became very angry and said, "You rascal, what are you doing? Are you dead despite the life within your body? Do you not know that I am your master? You are disregarding me and are not carrying out my order. For this disobedience, I shall now punish you, just as Yamaraja, the superintendent of death, punishes sinful people. I shall give you proper treatment so that you will come to your senses and do the correct thing." Thinking himself a king, King Rahugana was in the bodily conception and was influenced by material nature, mode of passion and ignorance. Due to madness, he chastised Jadavarata with uncalled for and contradictory words. Jadavarata was a topmost devotee and the dear abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although considering himself very learned, the king did not know about the position of an advanced devotee situated in devotional service, nor did he know his characteristics. Jadavarata was the residence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He always carried the form of the Lord within his heart. He was the dear friend of all living beings and did not entertain any bodily conception. He therefore smiled and spoke the following words. Purport: the distinction between a person in the bodily conception and a person beyond the bodily conception is presented in this body. And bodily conception, King Rahugana considered himself a king and chastised Jadbharata in so many unwanted ways. Being self-realized, Jadbharat was fully situated on the transcendental platform, did not at all become angry. Instead, he smiled and began to deliver his teaching to King Rahugana. A highly advanced Vaishnava devotee is a friend to all living entities. Dhira, dhira, priya karo. Dhira, dhira. Dhira, dhira, jana priya priya karo. Sadgoswami Astakam. A highly advanced Vaishnava devotee is a friend to all living entities, and consequently, he is a friend to his enemies also. In fact, he does not consider anyone to be his enemy. Suhruda sarva dehina. Sometimes a Vaishnava becomes superficially angry at a non-devotee, but this is good for the non-devotee. We have several examples of this in Vedic literature. Once Narada became angry with two sons of Kubera, Nalakubara and Manikriva, and he chastised them by turning them into trees. The result was that later they were liberated by Lord Sri Krishna. The devotee is situated on the absolute platform. When he is angry or pleased, there is no difference. For in either case, he bestows his benediction. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesa Sunyabadi Paschatya Desatarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. You sit down there. Three of you sit down there. Okay. Dear devotees, I offer my humble obeisances to all of you. To be able to speak about Krishna. By Vaishnava's mercy, we speak. Through the association of Sadhu, Guru, Shastra, we speak. But when we speak, using our senses, our own intellect, then we normally tend to speak nonsense. This exactly happened to Rahugana. Rahugana was a king. His men caught Jadbharat because one of the men carrying King Rahugana and a palanquin became sick. And Jadbharat was forcefully brought to carry the palanquin. Jadbharat is a pure devotee of Krishna. He doesn't know what is sin. Because he is one with Krishna in terms of quality, in terms of purpose. He is always situated in Krishna consciousness. Being situated in pure conscious plane, He is one in purpose as far as Krishna is concerned. He has no other desire except that of Krishna's desire. A pure devotee recognizes the so-called personal desires are only utpata eva kalpate. They are the source of disturbance. So a devotee always is very eager to fulfill the desire of a pure devotee or Krishna. As we are seeing here, Prabhupada is telling in the purport, a devotee, pure devotee, he is in the absolute platform. He is becoming angry, he is becoming happy, both are same. Like Narada became angry with the Manigriva Nalakubara. That anger was actually blessings. And so Ravana's man, by the will of the providence, caught Jadavarat. It's by the will of the providence. Otherwise, this event would not have been described in Bhagavatam, because this event led to Krishna conscious instructions delivered by Jadavarat to King Ravana. And when a king becomes Krishna conscious, so many others have the opportunity to become Krishna conscious. And that is how pure devotees, they preach. They don't have to go, every leaves, branches, twigs. They have to take care of the roots. And when they take care of the root, that is Krishna, by Krishna's arrangement, Krishna consciousness is spread. I would like some of the very important, pertinent point, because you see, Ravana will become the teacher. A person cannot be known by touch. You cannot know a person by touching him. You cannot know a person by seeing him. So many ways you cannot know the person. Only by hearing from him or about him, you will know about the person. Right? So the king's men, they used him to carry the palanquin. And Jadavarat, being conscious of Krishna, he is conscious of other living entities as well. So he is not feeling, wow, I'm such a great devotee, they made me to carry the palanquin. No. He didn't object to carrying the palanquin, but simultaneously he was conscious about the ants, other insects on the ground. While other three, they are carefully carrying the king and they are conscious of King Rahugana. Jadavarat was conscious of Krishna, and through that he is conscious of all other unit of consciousness. So he is trying to avoid all those small, tiny entities for him who are just equivalent to himself. He's trying to save them. And I don't know if you travel in India in a road, like a UP road, not the highway, but normal roads inside Kanpur or here, the roads are not good. And if you are sitting on the back, then you will feel the trouble. The similar way, when Jadavarat danced, it certainly gave discomfort to the king, and king started chastising. And king was thinking he is the king. His chastisement to another person would have been all right. But then to Jadavarat, it was misdirected. Jadavarat is trying to avoid killing an ant. And you may be thinking, why this is, such a maid. So many ants that die just like that, particularly in the rainy days now. In India, there are rainy days, and suddenly you come out and you see thousands of ants are killed during this rainy season. They're just washed away by the rainwater. And why he's so careful about, saving an ant? I normally give this example because it's very dear to me. You see that I have this Gangajal, that I use for putting tilak. And in this in this summer season, now it is a rainy season, but before this summer season, although this Gangajal bottle is closed, but the ants have entered in there because there is coolness. And they are searching for the coolness. And they have entered into my Gangajal bottle. How is this happening? My Gangajal bottle is in a big shelf, in the 5th floor in that shelf. And how this ant came to know that there is a Gangajal? Not only, suppose in 1995, I was visiting Hyderabad for a conference, and those days I used to always carry chudua and good, jaggery. Chudua means flat rice and jaggery. And so I mix jaggery and chudua and some water and offer to Krishna and I eat. That is how I used to survive those days. And in 1995 also, Krishna consciousness didn't spread in India so much. So you won't find many devotees wherever you go. They are not there literally. So I kept my bag in the 5th floor of the hotel where I was booked, and then went to the registration desk, got registered in the conference, and came back to my room. By the time I came, my room is filled with ants. In the beginning, I was wondering what happened, and suddenly I realized there is jaggery in or the sweet, good. Jaggery is a brown sugar, desi country brown sugar. And so because of that, ants have come. How they come to know? So these 2 examples, and you can see that it is true for 8.4 million species. That super soul personally guides everyone. I was asking today that how the ant came to know there is water, there is a good or the sweet or the sugar. People said, no, by fragrance, this and that. How? This is ridiculous to say they came to know by fragrance, by smell. They have the extraordinary power of smelling. What is the smell that water would or coolness would radiate, and they will come to know? No, it is they are seeking the shelter of coolness, and the super soul guides them. Why? Why super soul guides them? Why super soul is not guiding me? The reason is sin. Among 8.4 million species, 8 million species are not subjected to sin. Only 0.4 million, that is 4 lakh. 4 lakh species, they are subjected to sin. That is the human species. We are subjected to sin. Why? Because in the human body, we are supposed to know the purpose of life. This facility is not there. In other 8 million species, this facility is not there. They are not cognitively so aware that they can ask questions. We can ask questions. And we can ask pertinent questions. The questions like, what is truth? What is the original substance from which all other substances manifest? What is that original substance that is responsible for both transcendental and material creation? So that there should be, unless there are questions of this nature, like Arjuna is asking in the beginning of the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, what is better? Renunciation of fruitive work and speculative knowledge, or devotional service? Which is better? So these kind of questions we can ask. When we don't ask those kind of questions, and our questions are in regard to eating, mating, sleeping, and defending, then obviously we are entangled in sin. Sin means wandering in 8.4 million species, the vicious cycle. That is why everything must be purified. In Bhagavad Gita 3.13, you see that the ant eats, the plants they eat through their roots. Everybody eats. The birds eat, the tiger eats, the deer, but there is no sin. But when you eat, you verily eat sin. You verily eat sin. As human being, we only eat sin when we eat. Without eating, you cannot survive. But it says, Bhunjanti te togham papa pachanti atma karana. The moment you start eating for your own survival, you only eat sin. That's why yajna sister sano santa muchante sarva kalpisai. The very eating process that is necessary for our survival, that must be sanctified. Right? So sin is something that we are subjected to. Only human beings. Others are not. And when we are sinking within the sin, we don't feel the guidance of the Paramatma. It's not that ant feels the guidance of the Paramatma. No, ant doesn't feel the guidance of the Paramatma. But, as Prabhupada said, an elephant, although eats every day 2 to 3 quintals of food, but it doesn't have to do any research. He doesn't have to set up a laboratory. The food is provided. But we human beings, for 2 pieces of bread, we have to work so hard. We have to go through so many reverses of life. Why? Because as a human being, we are not supposed to be in the same pattern of life that other 8 million species are there. That is eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. We are supposed to recognize the absolute truth. That is why in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Tesam tu antagata papam, jananam punya karmanam, tve dvanda moho nirmukta, bhajante mam, druda brata. Druda brata. One can worship Krishna provided one is free from sin. That is why one of the mantra for Hare Krishna Andolana is purity is the force. Purity is the force. Purity means sinless life. Sinless life. We must be freed from sin. That is why 4 regulatory principles. No meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication. As long as we do not recognize, so how we become freed from our sin? Tesam tu antagata papam. Papa means sin. One must be freed. Anta. Anta means finished. Our sinful life, in human form of life, we must put an end to sinful life. And that is the personification of Jadavarat. Jadavarat is personification of sinless life. Sinless. In contrast, we are sinful. You take a moment and start meditating in your consciousness. I would be afraid if you don't faint. Each one of us must faint just looking at the darkest nature of our consciousness, filled with all kind of filth, including the lust, greed, anger, envy, pride, illusion, all kind of filth we have. And that is really very much, that should actually, petrify a person. We should be afraid of the sinful seed, the seed of sin that is there within us. The very popular, not popular, very prominent question, or famous question, yes, the very famous question of Parikshit Maharaj about this, that people, they commit sin and then they atone. They commit sin and then they atone. What is the use? Because after atonement, again they come and they repeat the sin. He gives the example of an elephant. It goes, takes bath. After taking bath, it comes out and pours sand and clay and mud all over his body. What is the use of such bathing? To that answer, Sukadeva Goswami says that unless one awakens Krishna consciousness within the heart, unless Krishna consciousness is awakened in the heart, we cannot eradicate such sin. We can't eradicate such sin. So in 4th chapter also, Bhagavad Gita, where it is talked about transcendental knowledge, although 4th chapter says transcendental knowledge means Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vedi tattvata. So that means we have to recognize Krishna is that original absolute truth. Hence, we should not take or accept his activities, his appearance to be material or mundane. We must accept their divine. So although that is the transcendental knowledge, but that transcendental knowledge will not sink in within our consciousness unless we perform sacrifices that purifies our action. We are all born of some nature, 3 modes of material nature, right? We are born with certain nature, and that nature would force us to perform certain kind of action. So that very action that is according to my nature must be dovetailed in Krishna consciousness. But unfortunately, in the 4th chapter, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, people perform sacrifices for material purpose. People perform yajna, sacrifices, austerities, charity to gain material comfort, to have a good birth, to have a good facility, to get promoted to heavenly planets. And Prabhupada says, unless and until you perform these sacrifices for self-realization, Atmanusilanam, Krishnanusilanam, unless we perform actions that would reveal to me Krishna consciousness, the transcendental nature of Krishna, then it is a fruitless endeavor, useless endeavor. Srama eva hi kevalam. Srama eva hi kevalam. So this self-realization or Krishna consciousness must be goal of any action. That was the famous question of Maharaj Parikshit. And same thing. Tesam tu antagata papam jananam punya karma. What is punya karma? Punya karma is Krishna conscious activities. All our activities must be authorized by sadhu, guru, and shastra. Otherwise, sin would attack us. We are not afraid of sin. This is our first mistake. First mistake of a practicing devotee, that we are not afraid of sin. We are not afraid of sin. You know that story of Bihari, the assistant of Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. Bihari was always carrying Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj in a tokri. Tokri means in a basket. Because Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, more than 100-year-old. He was an arthritis patient. So he is carried by Bihari from one Lila Sthala to another Lila Sthala, sometimes from Vrindavan to Mayapur. And once this Bihari was given 1 rupee coin by somebody. And Bihari kept it in his pocket. And Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj was absolutely put up. And he was thinking that if Bihari gets contaminated by sin, then his life will be in hell. His own life, Jagannath Das Babaji is thinking. And he's praying to Krishna to save Bihari. And it so happened that Bihari somehow donated that 1 rupee to someone on the way. And then Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj became very peaceful. You know that story of Parikshit Maharaj encountering Kali Purusa. And Kali Purusa finally took shelter of the king. King said, okay, go. Take a position where I give you shelter wherever there is no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication. And Kali Purusa went, searched and found out there is not even an inch in his kingdom where sin is there. So he came back and told the king, dear king, you have given me the shelter, but there is no place for me. What happened? Now, there is no sin in your place. I'm a sin personification. Where would I stay? So then, Parikshit Maharaj told him, wherever there is gold, please go and reside there. You can imagine how our civilization, the Vedic civilization, cared for its population. Human civilization, when there is sin, you cannot build a civilization. Punya karma means the activities that are meant for self-realization. When you accept that, tesam tu antagata papa, the sin will be vanquished. Then, te dvanda moho nirmukta. Dvanda. Dvanda means I'm a male, I'm a female, I'm American, I'm Indian, I'm illiterate, I'm literate, I'm engineer, I'm doctor. I like this, I don't like this. Dvanda. Finished. All these material designations are gone. They're gone, simply gone. And moha, illusion. The greatest illusion is that I die, I take birth. This is the greatest illusion. Dvanda moha nirmukta. Unless, as long as I am sinful, I cannot be freed from dvanda and moha. A sinless person only be freed from dvanda and moha. And then, bhajante mam drudha ma. So one can worship Krishna, or the worship of Krishna starts when I become sinless. My dear friends, please recognize this. Unless we become sinless, Krishna consciousness doesn't start. The real Krishna consciousness starts from the platform of sinlessness. So, in 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna says that this transcendental knowledge, that janma karma chameti. So I'm sinful. So when I'm sinful, I cannot feel the Paramatma here is guiding me. Just like we saw an ant is constantly being guided by Paramatma. A sinless person is constantly guided by Paramatma. A pure devotee never feels separated from his Guru and Krishna. And that is the case of Jadavarat. And so Krishna is telling Arjuna that you cannot understand this transcendental knowledge. We heard, and we thought that we understood. This is the problem. This is the problem. No. So 4.9, Krishna says, Janma Karma Chame Divya, right? And after that, until 4.24. I think 4.24 onwards, 4.24 to 34. Krishna is explaining different forms of sacrifices. Sacrifices for a grihastha, sacrifice for a brahmachari, sacrifices for sannyasi, sacrifices for impersonalism, personalism, varieties of sacrifices he talks about. So how do I know what kind of yajna I have to do? So after speaking until 4.33 different categories of sacrifices that we have to perform, then Krishna is not keeping it vague. What I have to do then? No, he's saying, Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya upadekchanti te jnanam jnaninam tattvadasi. Tad vidhi. That sacrifices, to know that, vidhi, to know what kind of sacrifices, how I must purify my eating, matting, sleeping, and defending. What kind of engagement I must have, what kind of prescribed duty I must accept. To know that, tad vidhi, to know. To know that, one has to approach the spiritual master. That means our whole life must be a life fully dedicated to Guru and Krishna. I don't know how many of you know this. When Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to give initiation to grihasthas, and these grihasthas, normally they would have some job. So whatever salary they would have, they will deposit the entire salary with the treasurer in Kolkata, Bada Bazar, main temple, main Gaudiya Math. And then the grihastha will come every day with a list of items he needs. And he will hand over to treasurer. And treasurer would procure all those things and as a packet will send to his house. That is the standard that was adopted during Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time. So the point why I'm making is that to know how I have to lead a life that can be sanctified and there is no scope for sin to enter, I have to approach a bona fide spiritual master. How? Pranipaten, with full humility, with full respect. Pariprasnana. There must be inquisitiveness that I want to progress spiritually. Why I don't have any taste for the holy name? Why I want to sleep more than what is desired. Why? I don't know what is my nature of my consciousness. I have no idea about my divine nature. The form of my consciousness, I know it is Krishna consciousness, but what is the real form of that consciousness? I don't realize, I don't understand it. Pariprasnana. There must be a burning fire of exploring my divine nature vis-a-vis my relationship with Krishna. Unless that is there is no point of going to a bona fide spiritual master. You will get nothing out of it. Sevaya, with the motive to render service to the spiritual master. So when we approach, then spiritual master engages us a proper service, proper prescribed duty, by which upadekshanti te jnana, I can see using my transcendental senses the transcendental truth. I can experience the transcendental truth using my transcendental senses. I must experience instead of experiencing my material consciousness. I must experience my transcendental consciousness, Krishna consciousness. So the point, just like, we will see now how Ravagana, the moment Jadabharat would start speaking, Ravagana immediately would realize that this is not an ordinary person. He is not a person of this world. He is a person from the divine world. He jumps out of the palanquin, falls flat at the lotus feet of Jadabharat, and catches hold onto his lotus feet and says, profusely crying, "Sir, I have made a big mistake. Please give me the shelter." With great respect, he takes Jadabharat to his kingdom, gives him Vyasasana, asks him questions, and then he hears the transcendental knowledge or message of Godhead. This is what is the purpose of human life. Purpose of human life is that we must cross over the sinful life and embrace the life of purity, life of cultivation of Krishnanusila, Anyavilasita Sunyam, Jnana Karmadi Anavrutam, Anukullena Krishnanusila, Bhaktir Uttama. So the pure consciousness means we must give up fruitive activity. We must give up speculative knowledge. We must not desire anything of this world. All that we have to do is cultivate Krishna consciousness. Cultivate Krishna consciousness. That is all. So, thank you very much for listening to me. We can go on speaking, but it's already, I think, 1 hour I have taken. So if there are some questions, we can discuss.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for enlightening us on this class. And focusing on the points of how we have to be sinless and always be in Krishna consciousness, because when you do things in with fruitive and not have fruitive activities, and how in these days that people are doing this sacrifices for material benefits, but instead we have to do sacrifices for in relation to Krishna conscious, not for the fruitive activities or for material benefits and all. And also how King noticed when Jadabharat was doesn't want to hurt ants, and realized that he is not an ordinary human being, and understand that he is the devotee's pure devotee of Lord. And then so nice, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. I would request any devotees, if they have any questions, please raise your hands.
Padma Mataji, is that a temple hall where you are sitting? Or is a background?
No, Prabhuji, this is the background, just the background.
Okay. I thought probably that's a temple. I thought it looked so nice.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah, no, it's just a background, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Very nicely we have explained about it and giving us the nice guidance. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. I don't have a question.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for such a wonderful class. It's been a while since we've seen you, and it's good to have you back. I don't have any questions. I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciated a couple of points that you made. One of the things that you said at the very beginning, which, of course we all know as devotees, but the way you said it just was really poignant when you said that when we speak from our material intelligence, we speak nonsense. And it's so true, without speaking from a spiritual place or including Krishna in our conversations or in our speech, we are speaking nonsense. And the other thing I really liked that you said about how the super soul is guiding animals, it's guiding the ants to what they need. That example you gave about how they ended up in your bottle, your Ganga water bottle. And that we don't experience it the same way because we have higher consciousness, and we can ask questions, and we're supposed to use that consciousness to ask those important questions and really seek Krishna. So thank you so much for the class. It was very inspiring and I appreciate it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. In fact, what you said is true, is actually super soul manifests when we seek Krishna consciousness. Just like for ant, for their survival, for an animal, for their survival, super soul is always there to guide them. But for human being, he is there to guide us in the path of Krishna consciousness. And that is why when we need him, then he manifests us in the form of sadhu, guru, shastra. And ultimately, when we are fully advanced, he is there to converse with us directly from our heart. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Karthik Pradhan. Unmute yourself. Unmute.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Humble obeisance. Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you for such a wonderful class, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my question was that as a student, that how can we avoid doing sinful activities in our daily life?
Good question. As a student, you must maintain celibacy. Do not look at the opposite sex except as a mother. You must consciously practice that. That is the greatest sin that a person commits in the body of a student. Because of teenage and the age is like that. We seek the association of opposite sex. So the best is that we must practice this. We first of all, we must understand that that illicit sex is fully sinful. Illicit sex ruins our spiritual consciousness, absolutely, and we must be trained in that particular science. So, reading the life's history of Bhishma, Narada, Hanuman would help, because they are all great celibates, and so I would suggest, because you are a student, where are you studying?
Actually, you visited our house in during the January time during seminar.
That is, yeah, Karthik, I was thinking, where did I see you? Why did I see you? Okay.
Yes,
So you are in Visakhapatnam.
Yes,
so how did you come to know this link?
Actually, I was in this group from last 3 to 4 months. I used to attend this daily Bhagavatam. It's a very wonderful Prabhuji, because it's a very essential that during this lockdown we can utilize some of our time and hearing the Bhagavad Katha and also Chaitanya Katha.
Okay, Karthik, are you doing all right? Are you, your 12 is over?
Yes, Prabhuji. Tomorrow is the JEE mains.
Okay. So I wish you all the best. But as you know, I have already known you. So this is the most important thing. Giving respect to the opposite sex as mothers, that is the best part. If you do that, all other good qualities will enter into you. Okay, as a student, because you don't earn, so there is no question of any liability from that side. So only you take care of this, and you are anyway devotee, so you are chanting your rounds, following 4 regulative principles. So this particular brahmacharya is something that you have to take care. Thank you, Karthik. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Your father is doing all right?
Yes, Prabhuji is fine.
Your chacha is there in our Gurukul campus.
Yeah, he was saying day before yesterday you visited the farm and all.
Good. Thank you. Nice to see you. Asraya.
Hare Krishna, sir. So you mentioned that unless one becomes sinless, real Krishna consciousness doesn't start. So, sir, my question is that like we are practicing the Krishna consciousness, but there are some sins even like in our it's not fruitive yet; it's in seed form. So how can we understand that like we are practicing, but still like we are not in that platform? Means like how to understand this thing?
How to understand? You see that what it says, Tesam tu antagata papam jananam punya karma. So by developing Krishna consciousness only, all these seed, prarabdha, kuta, all these seeds of sin will be eradicated. So what, I remember when Tamal Krishna Maharaj left his body, actually I was in Mayapur when he was there, and Rompad Maharaj told me to meet him because I was thinking of thinking in the direction of university, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj was working to set up university. So Maharaj sent me to meet him. And when I went to his room, I saw it's very crowded. Many people are waiting. And next day I have to return to IIT Kanpur, so I could not meet him. And the day I reached here, I think next day or so, I came to know that he met an accident and left his body. And it is just, it's the most difficult time for me, because for us, you people are in this generation. When we became Krishna conscious, 1992, 93, that time Tamal Krishna Maharaj is like a sun in the horizon of Krishna consciousness. He was the dearest to Srila Prabhupada, and so it's very difficult for us to reconcile. And I sent a mail to Rompad Maharaj, and Maharaj wrote to me that from Tamal Krishna Maharaj we must learn the principle of purity. Principle of purity. So that is, you have to act in such a way. See, something that we have already done, that is there in Putta form, that form, that form. We can't help it. We have already done, that seed is there. That is up to Krishna, how he handles that. But as far as I am concerned, so Maharaj was explaining, giving the example of life of Tamal Krishna Maharaj, that how he conducted himself in the platform of purity always. So that is all we can do. We can do only our part. And that which we have done already long back, for which we may sometimes suffer. And that is why Apichet Sudracharo, Bhajate Mam Ananya Bhav. Sometimes, people, because of their past thing, they may appear accidentally to do something. Very durachar, abominable. But sadhureva samantya, samyak eva hi vyavasthitas. But he is constantly committed to the purity of life. So that is, we should do our part. And it is up to Krishna how he handles my past things. That we should not worry so much. So as far as you are concerned, don't worry what kind of seed you have within you in terms of sin. But pursue the path of purity. That is important. Okay. I think there are no more questions. I think Padma Mataji, we can end.
Yeah. Thank you so much for so much enlightening class, Prabhuji. We look forward to your association so often, Prabhuji. Let's pay our obeisances to Prabhuji. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha pasidevyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Grace,